Are you ready for a wild and hilarious ride through the world of crime?
Then look no further because our podcast, Two Boxes of Wine and a Crime, is here.
Join me, Tasha,
And me, Trisha.
two ex-cons who love
Wine, coke, and crime.
as we unravel cold case murder cases drunk off our ass.
Each episode, we invite you to grab a box of wine
As we use Google and humor
and, of course, cocaine
to crack the toughest unsolved crimes
drunk off our ass.
From small town homicides
To 9/11, we have it all figured out.
or at least we think we do.
Listen as the mystery deepens.
The laughter gets louder
And, of course, cocaine
and the wine starts flowing
drunk off our ass.
in our entertaining, illegal, and
unforgettable podcast.
So join me, Tasha,
And me, Trisha,
on a coke-fueled journey to serve justice
with 2 boxes of wine and a crime.
Available now on your favorite podcast app.
Subscribe and tune in every
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for new episodes.
drunk off our ass.
The best bits, or whatever.
Brace yourself for a major turn of events!
We are releasing some Patreon Q&A episodes we did last summer, I believe.
The world is holding its breath in anticipation!
So here we are, cutting to ourselves from last summer, answering questions from Patreon. Enjoy.
Round 2!
Hello, Patreon, and welcome to Minibits 28. This is Will here, and as always, I am joined by Kevin. Hello, Kevin.
How are you?
Grant. I'm Grant.
Are you well?
I'm good. I'm good. You're absolutely baked. Kevin is actually topless as we record this right now, wearing shades.
I have pasties on though, covering my nipples.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Little pink pasties. What are pasties?
They're
Pastries. Have you got pastries on your nipples?
no, I have pastries on my ass. But pasties, aren't they like nipple covers?
Oh, okay. Oh.
Dancers will wear them, and actors will wear them in nude scenes.
I didn't know this. Oh, very good. I need a
Yeah.
pair of these.
yeah,
Okay, very good. Very
Yeah.
good. Would they wear them like for full
just on their nipples.
frontals? So you can wear them down there as well.
They do, but you end up with like a Ken doll front.
Wow.
bump. Yeah.
Well, no, that's a vision. I'm looking forward to the Barbie movie. That's all I'm saying.
I wonder what that one's going to be like. Actually,
I have no idea.
I think it's going to be like Enchanted. Do you remember Enchanted?
The Disney princess thing where she's
Amy
Adams.
Adams is
Yeah.
a Disney princess who gets blasted into the real world,
Yeah,
and she's sort of like a fish out of water. I think it's going to be something like that.
that was a really pleasant film. A film that I actually saw being shot, as a matter of fact, in New York one time by Pure Excellence. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was there on location. I could see Timothy Spall and what's his name?
James Marsden.
There you go, that guy. And yeah,
I
wow.
think that's a very, very good film. They're doing a sequel as well.
Oh, I hope it's as good. I hope it's as good. Yeah, it was a very, very. Yeah, I like that film an awful lot. But we're not here to talk about Enchanted or pasties or nude front frontals. We are, because we got so many Q&A questions from the Patreon the last time, there wasn't a hope in hell we could cover them all in one episode. So we said we're going to have to come back and do another episode to try and cover as many of the questions that were outstanding. But we got more questions on top of that. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of questions here. I've actually looked at the questions this time and given them a little bit more thought, because the last time I thought I could wing it, and then I was thinking, actually I need to think about this, and there wasn't time to think about things.
Mm-hmm. It's sometimes good to think about the answers before you let the answers escape your
I know,
mouth.
but that's so much work, and I just don't want to do work.
Well, come here. Shall we do this to a timer and just basically go for as long as the timer tells us?
Okay, yeah.
Right.
I've got 30 minutes here from the last episode. Will I just hit that again?
Let's do that again. Okay.
Alright, okay. The last time I read out a question from Don, and it was a fake question.
Right.
And Don's question was, what's your favourite colour? And you answered it quite earnestly.
Yep.
My favourite colour is green. I may as well just say it. I like all shades of green. But we actually have a real question this time from Don.
Right.
So I thought I'd read this one out and see what you think.
Okay.
And it goes, hi lads, my question's below. Will, out of everyone in the world that you could have done a podcast with, why Kevin?
I see there's a follow-up question to that, or a kind of...
Did he blackmail you?
The answer is yes. Yes. He has photos. I need help. And
Actually, genuinely, do you remember how the podcast started?
I think the podcast began over a WhatsApp message chain before Christmas of 2000. It was in the middle of lockdown, wasn't it?
It was at Christmas.
Yeah.
It was just, we had a text chain going. Both of us were thinking about starting a podcast.
Yes. And basically we said, I'd like to do a podcast. I'd like to do a podcast. And we said, well, could we possibly do it together? And it was like, yeah, well, why not? We could give it a go. But if we were to do it, what would it be about?
Yeah.
We both said, well, we know what we don't want it to be. And I think over the course of the Christmas, you had done a mock-up of the logo, not the logo, but the actual title card, mixed up got all the different letters from different posters.
Yeah.
And had you even put together as the actual theme tune at that stage? I remember you did that really early on as well.
Because I'd been thinking about doing a podcast myself, which actually ended up becoming your best bits, the questions that we ask each other on that, because I was thinking about doing something like that.
Right.
So I just sort of pilfered a load of that stuff.
Yeah.
Reworked it. Well, do you have any questions from anyone else?
I do. I have a question from Kieran Hartnett. And Kieran says, well, lads, my questions will probably be a bit boring compared to the others, but here's a few anyway. But I think, Kieran, you shouldn't discredit yourself.
Is it Kieran or Kieran?
I don't see the fodder. If I got the fodder, I know to say Kieran, but I don't see the fodder, so I'm going Kieran. Question number 1, Kevin. With the likes of David Koepp and Michael Mann writing books, would you ever consider doing one yourself? And a kind of a follow-on question to that is, could you see a way of adapting an unproduced script of yours into a book? So, have you ever thought about that?
Well, I like the comparisons to David Koepp and Michael Mann because we're so similar.
Yeah.
I did write a script once called Legend Has It, which I still hold close to my heart. It was an Irish mythology story. It's the only project of mine where when I pitched it, I would make people cry.
It's a great script. Not a great script yours, Kevin.
Very much influenced by Princess Bride, but using a lot of Irish mythology. And it had a deeper level to it. A Monster Cause came along and sort of ended up treading some of the same water or treading some of the same ground. What's the...
same ground, yeah. Covering some of the same ground, yeah.
Covering some of the same ground. I write good. And it couldn't get lift off. And I thought, I really liked these characters. Again, it was an Irish story, so it was me writing with my own voice and not having to translate it into other characters' sort of backgrounds, which I have to do all the time. And I wrote a few chapters and really, really enjoyed it. And then I started the podcast instead. Because I got to the end of doing a couple of deadlines at the same time, and I didn't want to jump into something new, and I thought I need to do something creative that isn't writing a script straight away. I thought, well, I can either adapt Legend Has It as a book. I got slightly dissuaded from that by my mate Lisa Canardi, who's an actual author and novelist, and I thought, well, a podcast might be a bit more fun and less in my own head.
She said to go with the podcast instead of doing the book.
No, what she said is that you need to be a born novelist. It needs to be something in you, not a hobbyist novelist, but something where it's like, you're not doing this just to write one book, you're doing it to have a career as an author. Because if you need a book deal, they really won't sign authors that they think have one book in them. They would want to back somebody who's got a career's worth of books in them. So it'd be like a 3-book deal or whatever. And in my head, I was thinking, well, no, I don't know if I might like it. I just think I've got this one story I really want to get out into the world. And I'd love to have a crack at it. It's a lot of work, but I was enjoying it. I was getting to dive deeper with those characters. And
that's the thing I do wonder about myself. I think what Lisa's saying is very true. There's certain you have to have a certain DNA, a certain compulsion.
It's a vocation, just like it is for us with screenwriting.
Exactly. That there's a compulsion for us to write films, the films we see in our head. I don't know if I have that compulsion to write a novel. I don't have that same impulse, to sit down and say, oh no, I want to write the novel. I want to write the film. I want to write the film that will get made. Even though a lot of film scripts are structurally very similar to short stories, and a film script could be adapted to a short story, like, you know, adapted into a treatment which is close to the short story version of the film. But doing treatments is painful, so painful to me anyway.
I refuse to do treatments. I will talk my way out of them. I don't think that they're creatively necessary. Better off doing a verbal pitch or a beat sheet, something which tells you the gist of something, and then letting your creative juices flow when you're actually writing it. But yeah, I don't know if I've just been conditioned to be economical with my writing, and with a novel, you really have to just luxuriate. And, you know, you can do a whole chapter about somebody just sitting in a car waiting for somebody to come out of a building.
Yeah. I've done before COVID when I had more time, but actually I probably have a little bit more time now. I could actually do it. As I've said it before, and it might probably in my other chat, I do that free writing thing where I would write for 15 minutes, and I used to do it every morning before I'd start writing. I'd write for 15 minutes, and so I extended that where I would write a random thing for 15 minutes that'd be the start of a story with just completely improvised, and the following morning I'd come back and I'd write another 15 minutes onto that same story. So I would do it over 5 mornings, and by the end of the 5th morning I would have a short story. And it was most of the time it was crap, but it was every so often you get something where it was its own little thing. It was its own story. It was purely prose led. It wasn't a script. It was very much a prose piece.
The one thing that I have learned over the years is that I'm less worried about me not having anything in the well to draw upon. When you start out and you have an idea for something, this is off tangent to what Kieran is asking us. But you start, and I see it with a lot of younger writers as well, or newer writers. You have an idea, it's a good idea. You write the idea, and then you feel incredibly protective of that idea because it feels like you've just miraculously fallen upon something, and you don't know if it'll happen again. It's like going back and playing the scratch cards again. How likely is it that you're going to win again on the next lot of scratch cards? But I don't think it's like that at all. I think it's like doing what you're doing, writing those few pages every day and discovering something. I think it's just like that with everything. It's like the more you do it, the more you realize that you can keep doing it, and it's never going to run out on you. Yeah. So your creativity knows no bounds.
It truly does not. All you have to do is start. All you have to do is just start, and something will emerge.
And if it's crap, start something else.
Who gives a shit?
And if it's crap, start something else. You're being creative, and it's all just about clearing the pipes.
Most of the time, it's crap, and it's about accepting that. It's about embracing the shit and finding the diamond amongst the fecal matter. That's my philosophy.
We come onto the podcast, we have a week between finishing one episode and the next episode. We're usually on the fly thinking, oh Christ, what are we going to do with this topic? And then we'll get on mic and something will come out of it. And it'll end up with the creation of Podbot, or having Helen O'Hara fall down the chimney, or have, Pierce be outside with civets making coffee for us. Yeah. Just being silly and creative, and stuff just keeps happening that we don't plan ahead. And being creative is just, it'll come naturally if you keep doing it.
Exactly. It's a muscle. Do you have another question for me, Kevin?
I do, and it's a follow-on question from what Kieran just asked us.
Yeah.
He says, when Patrick asked what books would you like to adapt to screen, you both went with fiction.
Okay.
Any non-fiction books you'd like to adapt if you had to do one?
Okay.
I have one.
Go on, you give me yours while I have to juggle.
I would go with Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, which is the memoir of the guy who created Nike.
Oh, shit. Right, go on. I don't know the story.
Him going from just being a pretty average track athlete and not having the right sort of footwear in the 60s to be able to run, to cobbling together a little bit of money to buy a franchise, to buy these Japanese shoe wear, concept shoes, to then introducing him into the market, then getting involved in a trade war with competitors and turning the company into what it is today, which is this $1 trillion company, and all the ups and downs that come with this, and the death of his son, and him almost going bankrupt. And it was just a really fucking great story, really well told. It's one of my favorite memoirs that I've read over the last few years.
Give me the
Shoe Dog.
Shoe Dog. I'm writing that down now. Here I am.
You'd love it, Will. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of the Schwarzenegger book,
which was great, very inspiring.
Yeah, it's inspiring. it just shows you it's no risk, no reward.
Oh man, that's very cool. The one that I always wanted to see on screen, and I don't know if it'll ever get told, was the Irish explorer, Antarctic explorer Tom Crean. He had a book about him called Unsung Hero. I've always craved seeing that story depicted on screen. He was an amazing man. Just came from a farm in Kerry and became one of the greatest Antarctic explorers. Was a part of Scott's failed expedition and Shackleton's failed expedition, and was kind of like the linchpin and the.
Did he die on one of his expeditions?
Scott died in one of his expeditions. Crean lived, and
right.
Scott wouldn't have died if he wasn't. I think if he made a decision not to pick Crean and to come with him on the final leg of his journey, and he was classist, and he didn't pick Crean because Crean was Irish. But Crean was the strongest and probably the best man to get to help him do the final leg. And Scott picked the officers because it was only proper for the first man to reach the South Pole to all be British officers, and they weren't well. Some of them was sick. Whereas if he had Crean, there was a chance he would have actually made it. Crean was a true hero. He was a hero on that expedition, and then years later with Shackleton, he went down into the Antarctic again to try and set another record, which is to cross the Antarctic.
Has he been a character in any of these sort of live action?
See, I've never seen him.
retellings?
Yeah, I've never seen him feature as a major player. When in actual fact, he was the most important player, and they're always told as two separate stories: Scott's story and Shackleton's story. And he was a connector. He was on both these expeditions and a really important figure on both these expeditions. I saw a live show. The one thing I saw was there was a one-man show of Tom Crean's, and it was one of the most thrilling experiences I've ever had in a theatre, where this guy painted what I felt was a Hollywood epic journey. Just by telling us the story of what happened, and I went, wouldn't it be incredible to see these expeditions seen from the point of view of a Kerry man, in the same way as this guy told us those stories that night.
You could get Fassbender to play him.
I always thought Fassbender was the man. It was the role he was born to play. So, but I don't think it'll ever happen. It's too expensive.
Not Magneto.
Not Magneto. That's the one I'd like to see. I'd love to see Unsung Hero be made into a film someday. So that's
cool.
mine.
I need to seek that out. Go on, hit me with another one.
I'll hit you from another one, and I'm going to go from someone else, right? This is from Dean Lines, right? Dean asks, what's the best script you ever read and why?
Oh, that's really, really fucking hard.
That's a tough question. That's a very tough
That's
question.
like saying, what's the best film you've ever seen?
Yeah. I just went, because I actually don't read a huge amount of screenplays, because that's a lot of work. It's kind of, I don't sit down for pleasure to read screenplays.
I don't anymore, but I did for a long time. I used to just hoover them up. Christ.
I could give you an answer if this is to you, but I'll answer it myself if it gives you time to think about it.
You can go, but I'm the only one that's coming to my head is Aliens by James Cameron.
Okay, right.
I
and
just
why?
remember that being a fucking riveting read. And I just loved that read.
When you see his material, when you read Cameron's stuff, and see the artwork he creates as well, he's just more and more. He's an incredibly impressive artist. He's a
I could
polymath.
answer this if it was like, what's the worst script you've ever read?
Okay, no.
Really good.
Let's stay positive.
I could tell you it doesn't. What's your one?
I'm only going to go with one that I remember standing out to me at the time as being so original, and it was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I remember reading that script before I saw the film.
I never read that. Yeah, but I've read a few Kaufman scripts, and they are lush.
And it blew my mind. The concepts he was throwing out onto the page, I felt I had to be on my toes to keep up with him. I felt this was truly an original voice just screaming off the page at me. And I don't think I'd seen any of his stuff at that stage.
I remember the Truman Show script being incredible. And that feeling like it was a whole new, like the breakthrough had been made. No, it feels like, it's strange. No, it feels like it's just a very good, everyday kind of movie. But back then, where it was like the concept of somebody having their entire reality orchestrated and then being unaware about it and having that breakthrough. and it being this sort of very meta story about where we are in the world, but also just philosophical questions. I just remember loving that read.
And it was ahead of its time because it was before reality TV show.
That's what I mean. So it felt so much more progressive, I guess.
It's a fantastic film. I still find I love that film.
I'm going to go back to Kieran's questions because there's one that I have an answer for. There's two that he asked that I really like.
Right.
So just based on that question.
Right.
Did you answer that? Actually, you didn't.
I did. I said Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh, you did? God. I'm catching COVID off you. You have to write a sequel to an 80s or 90s action film. Which one would you do?
Okay. So are you going to answer this or am I answering this?
I'm going to answer it.
You answer it. Right, go on.
I would do a sequel to Galaxy Quest.
Oh, okay. Do you have an idea in mind?
Well, I would have the surviving members of the Protector gathered together for the funeral of Alan Rickman's character. And their show has been cancelled for the second time, and there's been a reboot cast announced. And they're doing a recall show, almost like the way you've got Chris Pine versus Shatner. So you've got this hot, sexy reboot cast who are now getting paid more than they ever were getting paid, who are getting to do all the sort of the great side gigs that they didn't really get, where they were like TV actors who couldn't do movies, and they're doing movies. And they've got a new villain in their new reboot show, and this villain is like their Borg, and
Right.
it's like an incredible villain, and it's not sort of the hokey villains that they had in the original Protector series, like on the TOS Star Trek series. And the surviving bad guy aliens from the first movie decide that they're going to beat the hero aliens from the first film at their own game, and they're going to kidnap the writers of the reboot series.
Nice.
Not the cast, but the writers who came up with all these ideas for these great schemes to beat the heroes, and have them help them plot a retaliatory invasion against Earth. And the old dog cast, Sigourney Weaver, Tim Allen, Tony Shalhoub,
Alan Rickman, R.I.P.
No, Alan Rickman's gone, but what's his face? Sam
Rockwell.
They have to work with their younger contemporaries,
Right.
sort of team up with the younger ones. And you get the arc of the new guy who's playing the younger Alan Rickman and has an entirely different impression of what Alan Rickman was like. And they're having to coach him on what his predecessor was really like. All these sort of mini arcs, and having them work together, the old dogs and the new team, to basically save the world against this new, bigger, badder villain.
This sounds like something you've been stewing for quite some time.
I swear to God, it's not. But when the question came up, I thought,
So
I was
good.
trying to go through everything and thinking, well, I want to do something that hasn't had a sequel already. And so many of them have.
Yeah.
One of my favorite films is Galaxy Quest, and I thought, well, let's have real fun with this.
Oh, great. I had a brief think about it, and I didn't put as much thought into it as you have. But I thought I went through 80s movies, and I went 80s action. I just scanned through the list, and so many of the good ones have had sequels, so that kind of like invalidated them in my mind. But then I hit one, and I went, that was a cool concept for a film, and there's so much more that can be explored using that concept, and it's the film Inner Space. And I think Inner Space was such a cool idea, and I thought, a sequel to Inner Space set
They go into outer space.
No, we're not going to outer space. No, but that still would be fun. You could still be in outer space and inner space. But I thought, you remember in inner space, this is all I have, is that in inner space, so you have people inside in people's bodies, right? But let's say some bad guys, like decades ago, got the technology to miniaturize people and put them into people's bodies. And one of these people, these little pods that are inside in people's bodies, end up they figure out how to control people. So let's say if you got one, and if you injected the American president, and you have, let's say, a Russian entity inside there, he can control the American president.
Ooh, yeah.
So, and what if they get...
So the body is like a war zone.
It's like a war zone, exactly. So what we have is basically an entire... And it takes several of them. It's not just one. And they have to... And this happened back in the 90s or the 80s. So we have an entire legion of Russian, like, pods inside and infested in one body for decades now. and they've been slowly, trying to bring down the America from the inside of this one politician.
Do you remember in Inner Space, one of the big, unless I've imagined this, but wasn't there? Oh, it was a kiss. Oh God!
They transferred to the
Yes.
yeah.
I thought that they had sex and he ejaculated himself into her body, and that's how he knew she was pregnant. That's not what happened. It was a kiss.
Yeah. It
Oh
was
my
a
God.
kiss. It was
Cut
a
that,
kiss.
cut that.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one more from Kieran, so then we can jump back around. Because Kieran had some fucking great questions.
You did, yeah.
He said, you have to write a screenplay for a biopic on any musician or band. Who would you do? I'll give you my one straight away because it's so easy.
Go on.
And it would just be a fucking brilliantly fun movie. It would be Milli Vanilli.
Go on, right? Milli Vanilli. Isn't Milli Vanilli the guy who was miming the entire time?
twins who were just
They were
miming.
twins. They were just miming.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Why would that be so good?
Because didn't they win a Grammy and they never actually sang on any of their records. They were just
Yeah.
basically frontmen for background session singers. It was all a big scam.
Yeah.
And I think there's a great sort of a hilarious story about celebrity and the bullshit of the music industry. And I just want to know more about those two guys and
Yeah.
what was going on and how they were being manipulated. And all the sort of the funny scenes of them like having to get out on stage and mime.
So would you take it from them being plucked from, like, however that process happened? You have to have, like, the engineers of this. So obviously it's like a studio executives made this happen, made these guys, okay, you know.
Or their managers or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so
I
yeah.
think they were manipulated, and I think that that it would be a fascinating story and a very fun one.
So it's kind of like a con job, like a fraud job, and like, you know,
It is, and I think that they were unwittingly part of that.
That's a great pick. I was trying to think, because as soon as you said a band or an artist, I went, okay, well, first of all, to make a film, you need a story, a real life story that has drama to it. You need to have some sort of drama that you know you can exploit. Queen, okay, right, we've had Queen, we've had Elton John, we've had Elvis, and I was like, okay, what other band or group of a lot of, Beatles have been done, and then I just hit on one band where I said, oh, there's so much drama there. Fleetwood Mac have so much internal drama. We have two.
That would almost be a mini series, though, not a movie.
Well, it depends. I know it's probably better for a mini series, but I could. Back in the day, you could have done a movie as well. Two guys, two girls.
You'd have to open the movie with Stevie Nicks backstage, bent over, while Mick Fleetwood is blowing cocaine up her ass with a straw.
Please don't tell me that happened for real life. Please.
Apparently it did. She didn't want to snort cocaine because it would ruin her voice.
Oh
so
my
that
god!
They would blow cocaine up her ass.
Oh, you're joking me. Oh,
Rock and roll.
Oh, fucking hell! But the agony of the relationships of of their relationships, and they
Ring
were
of Fire.
They were writing breakup songs about each other. And then
singing them on
stage. That's and it spanned decades. These kind of this tortured relationship that they all had with each other,
and all of them are so fucking talented.
And the music is great. Music is great. So I don't know what it would be, but I think I would definitely look at them and say, okay, how could I make this into some sort of dramatic?
What would be the title of that? It would have to be after one of their songs.
Rumors. I would go.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
you'd have to then focus it about the making of that album.
Yeah, I think you could. Yeah, you would find the most pivotal dramatic point, and maybe that was it. But yeah, so that one. So I'll go and ask.
My God, I wish we were in the position of power to be able to greenlight stuff and go like, let's do that, let's do this.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. I want the Galaxy Quest sequel. That's great. Okay, John.
Thanks for those questions, Kieran. They were brilliant.
They are great. John O'Callaghan. And he's a fun intro. He says, "Dear he who sings from the sea and he who grabs from the sea." good intro. John S., do you have any recommendations or pointers for any way to help understand a film or how to better actively watch a film? So, do you have any way? Is there any way? Any suggestions? Any pointers? To actually figure out how to actively
put your phone away.
Obviously, right.
I guess he means on how to read a film.
Yeah. The only thing I would do which if I'm looking at a film and I'm trying to be more active and engaged with the film, is I will make notes throughout the film. I will sometimes sit with...
Not while you're watching like a film for enjoyment.
No, not while I'm enjoying the film. But if I really want to actually try and pull a film apart and stuff like that, I will sit down and I will actually write the beats of the film out. What's happening? Okay, John opens the door. John pulls out a gun, and
Jesus, John, what's wrong with you?
No, yeah, movie John does this, and I think the act of actually, scribbling things down makes my brain work to be more engaged with the film and I start thinking about. I'm not passively watching the film; I'm actively watching the film. I think that's something I do when I'm trying to study a film.
All stories are about characters. A film can be about a world or a character. Identify what type of story you're watching and lock into either whether it's about the world or it's about the character, and then ask yourself as you're watching it, what is the thing that the main character wants? What's in their way, and what's stopping them from getting it? And that can be different things, where it can be a personal flaw that they have. In Uncut Gems, somebody who just cannot stop gambling. And just track the choices that the character makes and what the film is telling you about that person based on their choices, because that's all that every movie is about. It's about the choices that a character makes to either reiterate what the writer's telling you or the filmmaker's telling you about the world or about that character. That's all I do anyway when I'm writing a film or writing a project. So I think that's a very easy way to read a film. Who's it about? What do they want? And what's in their way? What's stopping them?
Yeah, and finding out what the filmmakers want to say about this. What is their point of view on this story, and what
they can often be wrong about that, though.
Quite possibly, yeah. But I find it's always a good sign when you have good sign of a film when you have competing thesis and and thesis for what the filmmakers intended to say, and that is positive for the film, because it means that the filmmakers, irrespective of what they intended to say, are actually telling a story that has a broad, that is there's a truth in that story that can be applied to a lot of things in the world that we know around us, and I think that's a positive sign for a film, that if you can have competing theses.
Do you want to go with one more? We've only got a few minutes left.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me just have a quick scan here. Let me go from one from somebody else. Ray Bogdanovich, who's Dean Line's writing partner. What do you do if and when you get writer's block?
That's a good question. It's a great question. What I do is...
I do a podcast.
Usually when you've got writer's block, it's obviously there's a problem with the story, right? There's a problem that, it mightn't be... And the problem mightn't be in that particular point in the story. It might be at the beginning of the story, but there's some problem somewhere.
Yeah, it's not you that has a problem. It's the story is creating a problem for you.
Exactly. So there's a couple of different things I would do. I try and find a way of changing my perspective on the actual story. I will go for a walk. Sometimes I will actually abandon the actual story and say, right, I'm not going to sit at the computer and bang my head on the keyboard on this one. I'm going to go for a walk. Is that how
you write?
Sometimes, yeah. And you'd be amazed with what will come out.
Which head do you bang?
The one where the money maker. Sometimes when I'm on a walk, that will loosen the rust or whatever it is. And then another suggestion you gave me, which really helped me recently, and this is a tip that you gave me, which is you're telling me all the time to quit, was I was stuck on one problem this past summer, or maybe in springtime, and I was like going, I don't know how to figure out the story problem. And I didn't tell you what the story was. You just said to me, write the story backwards. And start
at the ending and track it backwards.
And tracked it backwards. And as soon as I did that, the problems or what was important shone to the fore and what was unnecessary just fell away. And all of a sudden I was able to restructure my story, and all of a sudden I fixed my story as a result of that. So it's about changing your perspective. If you're coming to a writer's block, that means you're banging up against a brick wall. You need to go around the wall. Stop approaching the wall from that angle. You need to look at it from a different angle.
You have to think that your brain is hardwired to form patterns, and we have patterns of thinking as well. So when it's why there are typos in things that you read when they've not been proofread by somebody else. It's because we don't actually read what we've written. We're remembering what we intended when we wrote it. And it's the same thing with your mind, that when you're trying to think through a solution, your brain is just going to naturally go down the path of least resistance, which is where you've already formed the synapses. And the only way to do that is to interrupt it. And that can be like going for a walk, doing something manual, stopping your brain from forming the same sort of links to get to the same solutions, where you're just in this recursive thinking over and over again. Or, as I said, like thinking from a different perspective. Think from the end to the beginning.
Yeah.
And your brain then is having to work to remember what exactly goes after this, which is before it. Mm-hmm. And that just forms all these new synapses. And yeah. God, I'm good.
You're a guru, Kevin. You're a guru. Well, genuinely, you gave me that tip a couple of months ago, and it really helped me on a project. So, yeah, thank you, Kevin.
Anything else? You've got 3 seconds.
Oh, 3 seconds. Kevin, what are you wearing?
I'm not wearing anything.
I can tell. Yeah. There we go.
That was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, Kevin. I enjoyed that. Great questions.
I am sapped of energy. So
You're baked, Kevin. You're actually, there's why are you trying to base yourself with egg wash?
That's just the grease on my skin.
All right. You've this big paintbrush, and he's just rubbing himself.
Because I'm sitting in a leather chair at the moment, and I stick to it, so I got to get greased up so I can slide off it.
Oh,
well, that was fun. There's still a load more questions there, but I think we tackled. I don't know how we got through.
But they were very good questions. Very good questions.
What do I have to recommend? I'm going to recommend Will's book about Cream.
Tom Crean, Unsung Hero.
I'm going to recommend that book. And Will, what are you going to recommend?
I am going to recommend. Because when's the last book? Kevin's book. What was your book, Kevin?
Shoe Dog.
Shoe Dog. Yeah, I am definitely going to. I met his son, actually. His son runs Leica. Yeah. He looks like Sam Worthington. He's an incredibly handsome man. And
Sam Worthington,
the actor who was Avatar.
Oh, the Australian fella.
Yeah, if they were standing side by side, you might get mixed up. Leica was set up with Nike money, so that's all you have to do to be a filmmaker in the world. Is
if you want to be a success, have rich parents.
Have rich parents. That's a key, I think, to the world.
Your parents need to have their own Wikipedia page.
There you go. And you will make it in the industry.
Your kids will be fine.
I don't have a Wikipedia page.
I spoke too soon.
There you go. It's sort of pure. And a lot of these people make Wikipedia pages about themselves. And I'm just like going, no, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm letting someone else make my Wikipedia page. I've got to do that.
Okay.
Very good.
That's another Q&A episode.
Great questions. Thanks very much, everyone.
I'm going to have a cold shower.
Another one.
See ya.
Good luck. Take care.
The best bits, or whatever.
And here is a clip from the lads' latest Mini Bits bonus show. The full episode, plus 80 more, are available on their Patreon.
See ya, Mossy. I gotta go in and record another one of these fucking Mini Bits.
Oh, yes, this is all it is.
I know. What are you doing?
Right now, on the Academy screener site, and I hit play because there's only a few films on it for the first month or two. There's only like about less than 10 films on it. And Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is on here. So I hit play on that, and I'm hearing we're out in Afghanistan, and I'm hearing all the dirt, and I hear vehicles, and I hear the sound effects of characters walking. But when characters open their mouths, I don't hear any dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
no dialogue.
They've uploaded the wrong audio track. It's like that Tom Cruise trailer where it was just the sound effects.
Have you met an SP?
Yeah, and this film's been up on the screener site for a few weeks now, and they still have the wrong one here. Well, I tell you what films are actually up there for all Academy members to see, and to see what they've put up there.
But first of all, let's just throw to our theme. And I have to say, the feedback from my thank you ballad it was quite fierce.
The power of Christ compels you!
So I asked Mossy, who is a friend of my dad's at the quiz, sing us a theme tune.
Oh.
So over to Mossy.
Hit the cards. I'm fine, I'll get it done in one take. It's the Mary Bits. Oh, podcast, what will they say? With Will and Kevin Cock.
The best fucking podcast.
That'll do.
That'll do.
My God.
Thank you, Mossy.
He would make an angel weep. That voice would make an angel weep.
Telling you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Boolabus.
It only cost us 2 months Patreon money, so, you know.
Is that all? Money well spent in my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, you can't get much for €20. Will, you were telling me before the intro that you were looking at stuff on the Academy Screeners website.
The Academy Awards. So for official members, yes. So they don't send out DVDs anymore. So how you do all your streaming stuff is all via the Academy website. And the streaming season has begun, which is exciting. So it means for the rest of the year...
Did it ever end?
It does end. It does. After the Academy Awards, there's about 2 weeks, and they take all the films down, and then they begin again at the end of August, and they all start coming up. So it's a whole new collection of hopefuls.
So how many films are on there?
Right now, about 10. Actually, 10 exactly. I can tell you the 10.
Oh, go on, tell me.
John Wick 4.
For the Oscars. Oh, because there's like...
Yes, because they're adding in stunt category, aren't they?
Are they adding it in? Is the stunt category being added?
I believe they're adding in some sort of stunt category.
Breaking news straight from an Academy member's mouth.
Because they're adding in stunt category, aren't they?
Slash film.
I don't know. Did I read this in an article? I feel they were.
I
felt they were.
Have long overlooked stunts, and my God, it's pure artistry.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly, well, these days, it's all fucking rubber computer generated avatars.
That's why that's why these people should be getting their Oscars when someone's actually gone out there. Yeah,
go back,
absolutely.
Go back and give it to your man from Mad Max who broke his legs.
Give it to Richard Farnsworth, who was a stuntman and starred in The Straight Story. Yeah, Richard Farnsworth was a career stuntman.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Wasn't that also the case with Machete? What's your man, Machete? Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
Is
really?
It Trejo or Trejo?
I always call him Trejo, but he just says, call me Danny.
I was going to say that back to you.
Nah.
I was like, just that.
Weird.
Tells me just call